Hello my fellow readers. Today I'm going to be talking about Devils and Realist, a manga series by Utako Yukihiro and Madoka Takadono. I'm going to do my best to kind of give an overview of what Devils and Realist is about, but it is a little bit complicated. I will also say that this is perfect for fans of Black Butler and Pandora Hearts. It's interesting because I was I would have said prior to the last couple of volumes that I would peg this lower, and still maybe might to like Black Butler, but this might be on par more with Pandora Hearts, and actually also kind of in a similar vein to Angel Sanctuary without the other storyline aspect. But essentially what Devils and Realist is about is a good versus evil story, but with a twist, where you have the character of William Twining, who is at present time an impoverished noble. I think his uncle wiled away their fortune. William's parents fairly recently, when he was a child, William's parents died, and he's been in the care of his uncle. But his uncle travels to different like archaeology sites and has recently like lost the fortune. Hence, he's impoverished. So at the beginning, like all the servants and everything are leaving, except for his like faithful butler or servant. I don't remember if he had a different title, but Kevin is still there and will remain by his side to take care of them. William is going off to school, all of this other stuff, or going back to school because it was at the school. Anyway, I believe he's in like his second or third year when this starts. But to kind of quickly condense a lot of what happens, William ends up awakening as, or even though he himself is not awakened, he's told that he is the reincarnation of King Solomon, and that he has to choose the next king of hell, and that's his like sole purpose. And he meets a bunch of different demons, some of whom are vying for the position of King of Hell, and some of whom are the supporters of said demons, devils that are vying for it. So, how do we break this down? So one of the main characters that he meets that's vying for the title has a very long past with King Solomon, and that is Dantalion. Dantalion is the main devil person that we meet. And from there, it gets out of control for a while. Like, we're meeting so many different characters after that, either that want to vie for it or that are fighting behind the scenes for whomever should be the next king. And it gets all like messy and kind of complicated and convoluted. And I wasn't sure how I was feeling about it. You also get to a point where heaven is also involved, where we're seeing characters like Michael, Metatron, a lot of, familiar characters in that sense. But I will say at the same time, this is bringing its own lore into the forefront. It's twisting its own story. It's not specifically using those stories or even the stories in like the Book of Enoch. It's sort of taking all of those things and twisting its own mythology from it. So this is not one for people to get upset about or think it's not giving enough representation of this or that. It's its own fantasy story, so don't overreact to any of it. But it's fascinating and it is interesting, and I think it got better as it went on. The final like 6 or 7 volumes I especially really liked. The last volume was really good and made sense out of everything, because you do get to a point where you're like, okay, now here's heaven, and like they want to have Solomon, aka William, reach this ecstasy so that he sort of becomes a tool and allows them to defeat all of hell, but stuff like that happens. Also, there's big character reveals and twists that I can't give away. Like, there's a lot of spoiler potential. But it does essentially just come down to this epic battle, but also the whole twisting of what is good and what is evil, or is there redemption available? And the title, of course, of Devils and Realist comes from the fact that you're going to have all of these devil representations vying for hell to rule. And meanwhile, William is a realist. He doesn't believe in magic or demons or angels or any of that. He believes in science. And so that's the big laughable twist in the first couple of books. And I think that's the thing. When it first began, there was almost a humorous quality because he was just like, I'm a realist. I don't believe in this stuff. And there was a lot of kind of Fujo bait material here. There's not a lot of female characters going on, if you know what I mean. So there is a lot of like kind of flirty type things without it ever becoming BL. I still say like strongly by the end, there was strong indication of maybe there being other things present, but never outright. So it's one of those stories where you can sort of play with who you would like to see paired and all of that jazz. And it was kind of fun in that sense. Then the middle few books just kind of dragged a bit, where you're like, where is this going? You know, it's like I get what the premise is. Can we just get there? And then the final 6 or 7 volumes went there, and it brought it together cohesively. And I really enjoyed the ending. I could have trimmed out some of the middle, or condensed it more. But overall, I did like it. I thought it was a strong series. Again, perfect for fans of Black Butler, Pandora Hearts, any of those kind of dark fantasy tales that are set in more like Victorian, Edwardian era. I think they'd really get into this one. What else is there to say about it? I mean, I think William is a good character, and really so is Dentalion. I think that it becomes really a compelling story. I'm pretty sure there was an anime that I watched of this, and maybe that's how I got kind of interested in the series. I'm pretty sure there may have been, and that it just ended, obviously, because you would need a longer series to get the full ending. But I could be wrong. I could be misremembering, because it would have been a while ago that it came out. The series itself, I think, was like, oh geez, I didn't see the first one. The last volumes were out more in like the 2014-15 or so period. So I'm thinking it had to have started way before that, because it takes a while. So anyway, I can't remember if there had been an anime or not. And I'm like, but I didn't see any, usually there's the notes or whatever. Yeah, I didn't see that. Like, oh, there's an anime coming. And I'm like, but I didn't see that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was recommended based on like, if you like anime. You know what? I can't remember. I probably shouldn't even be going on about it. But if you remember, or you looked it up, or if I look it up, maybe I'll leave a note down below, because I can't remember. But, overall, again, this is a story that I was intrigued by, and I wanted to get to the end of. And I finally have, and I feel so happy to. I think I made mention of it in my most recent manga haul, but I borrowed the majority of the series from my library, brought it home, was organizing it so I knew what to read, because I was going on vacation, and I was like, okay, I can get through this manga series that I've been wanting to read, but I've put off for so long. And I'm stacking them and sorting them, and realized that I did not have volume 6, that somewhere along the line volume 6 wasn't purchased. So I went to Right Stuff and added it to my order that I was building up, that should have been sent out earlier, but there was a delay, and so it delayed the shipment of that. And in fact, I think that's one of the ones that I opened. So I did not get to read this part until now because of the delay in getting volume 6. So I read like 1 through 5, and then there was a long pause until now when I could finally read volume 6 on. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I finally bit the bullet and read it. I would say, you know, if you're at all intrigued by it, I think you should go ahead and give it a read. There's a lot of interesting plot pieces and questions brought up that I think in a lot of ways Japanese authors are able to do because they're not from the heavily Christian countries. If you know at all what I mean. Like, they don't have a problem looking at outside sources and creating these new mythologies and stories about them, where sometimes if you are from a Christian background, you're afraid to go there in a sense, because of whomever you might offend. You might be hearing about it and how it's not, you know, whatever representation, whereas you might have a little bit more leeway if that's not your country's primary belief system, and getting away with creating the new mythos. I don't have a problem reading either way because it's fiction, so it doesn't personally attack me or my belief system. It's a work of fantasy. And that's how I take it. So I have no problem with people questioning things or coming up with their own story ideas, because that is how we come to new self-discoveries and ways of thinking. And I don't know, I'm just one of those people where I'm not offended by such things. Long story short. So, yeah, outside of all that, if you're at all interested in Devils and Realist, you can look to see if your local library offers it, or it is still in print and available. This is through Seven Seas Entertainment. So give it a look-see-loo. I do think the art is really nice in this series. It's part of why I was drawn to it. Also, I mean, look at that. We call that Fujo bait. You see these pretty boys like kind of laying on each other. You want to read that. That's done intentionally. Check it out. That's all for this video. Until next time, bye.